Hello, everyone. It's actually our pleasure to be included in this MoHeap 2021 virtual workshop. And today I want to present one of our recent research about understanding the interaction between human activities and physical health under extreme heat environment in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm Dr. Qingshan Zhao, and I'm a lecturer in urban analytics in the Urban Big Data Center and Urban Studies in the University of Glasgow. Just give you some of the background of this research. So for you not familiar with Phoenix, so Phoenix is actually a pretty big metropolitan area in the Southwest United States. And it's actually a desert city from the picture you see here. You can see all the urban areas just kind of reside on top of a desert environment. And with the fast urbanization process in Phoenix, there's a serious, urban heat island effect coming up in Phoenix. So basically says the urban areas has a higher temperature compared to rural areas. So many places happen with this kind of urban heat island effects. But thinking about the Phoenix, which originally has a desert environment, also desert climates. So in Phoenix, we're always talking about this kind of long-term heat resilience. So back to the year of 2020, there's a recuperating 144 days of the 100 Fahrenheit, which is about 38 Celsius degree, and 50 days of 110 Fahrenheit, which is 43 Celsius degree. So basically during the entire summer, it's a really hot and dry summer. And it has a pretty consistent high temperature across, I would say, probably about 3 months, 4 months. So how the local residents can actually survive and live there without having any kind of health issues, that's a very important agenda, kind of heavily discussed in Phoenix area. And when you have this kind of long-term heat period, so there's always a question about the heat-related morbidity or mortality, right? So back to the year of 2018, there's a recuperating 182 heat-associated deaths in Phoenix. And the majority categories from these deaths are basically from the homelessness. As you can see, they don't have a place to live, and during really hot summer days, it will be really dangerous for them. Outdoor workers, for sure, and also for homebound seniors. And sometimes those seniors, they cannot really afford to always running the AC and making their kind of indoor temperature pretty high. And also they are kind of vulnerable groups because of their age and health conditions. So how to actually understand this better. So right now we know there's a long-term heat problem, and there's heat-related deaths, and I would say the illness associated with it. But how to actually understand much better? So this comes with our research aims. So for this research, we try to understand how residents living in Phoenix experience, behave, and interact in the extreme heat environment. And we try to understand it. We try to design and create and also evaluate a newly integrated, low-cost, accurate, and readable portable sensing system via the smartphone called Activity Log to do a health-related citizen science research efficiently and cost-effectively. But in general, we want to inform solutions to help mitigate heat stress, reduce heat-related deaths and illness, and also improve overall health conditions in the desert environment. So here I want to give you some understanding of like how our citizen science works, right? So we have a name of a citizen science project as the heat mappers. And as you can see, we have these volunteer keys, which including the in-home temperature logger, which is a hobo device, the location loggers, which is a GPS device. And we also have let me go back. So we also have, mobile, the portable sensing, right? The portable temperature logger, which is Castro drops. And the original settings, we have a paper-based volunteer kits. We're also giving out the instructions booklets, survey booklet, and activity log booklet. And all of these will be mailed to our volunteers, and they will mail it back for us. And we also have option for the digital version to actually design activity log apps. And I will explain more details later. So to explain the entire citizen science process, so the entire program is 10 days. So the first day, all the volunteers will take the kit home, or maybe they just get it from our collaborative organizations such as AZSend and Salvation Army. They take the key home and read the instructions. They basically setting up their device at home and where the mobile temperature loggers and also the location loggers translate together. And during these 10 days, they will just keep measuring their at-home temperature, which is indoor temperature. And also when they go out, we ask them to wear the GPS as well as the portable temperature sensors. And if they use the paper-based version, they will have a booklet which shows the activity logs here. So basically we ask them to do it every 2 hours. So we have 2 questions. Where are you now? It's indoor or outdoor, and then to be more specific about what category of activities they are doing. So basically we also want a date and time for sure. And by the end of the program, they will fill in the surveys, and at day 10, they will send the entire kit back to the university. So that's the paper version, but in the digital version, we'll try to just to simplify the entire process. So we drop the GPS sensors, and we use, instead of that, we use smartphone to actually capturing the location and the time. But we still have the portable temperature sensor, which is Castro drops. But we create a Bluetooth connection between the smartphone and the Castro drops, and all the users or volunteers will be able to read their temperatures in a real-time manner through their smartphone apps. They will still have the hobo device, which kind of sitting there to measure their at-home temperature. And the surveys and activity logs are also actually integrated in the smartphone interface. You can see that's the activity log, which you just button click. And we also design those kind of push notifications for every 2 hours from A to A to basically help them to remember how to actually press the button and measure where they are in terms of location. So this is the entire systems, and the system is actually available on Apple Store and Google Play. So if you're interested in that, go ahead to search activity log without a space, and you can actually find out the app and download it just have a try. So to go back to this research in more detail, so this is our study area in the Phoenix metropolitan area. And we have 3 collaborators, I would say. You can see the red stars are the Salvation Army, and the blue stars the AZSend, and they are both the charity organizations in the Phoenix metropolitan area. And we also collaborate with the American Express. So that's their office in the Phoenix area. So we basically covering the Chandler and the Phoenix City in this analysis. So some of the results here to show you, and this is from a paper activity log statistics. So from you can see, because this is really a pilot study for the entire change for resilience project. So this is the first summer we initiate this kind of citizen science program. And we have 44 volunteers from the AZSend and Salvation Army. They recruit from Phoenix area and the Chandler area. And the total paper logs we collect, it's around 1,500 logs. And average, every person, they submit about 35 logs. And you can find out the majority of the logs, actually the indoor logs, and most of them actually staying at home, 62% actually the home logs. And by looking at the log statistics, so by only match by time, the 66% of the logs can match with the Castro drop with the telemetry data. But the problem is that we cannot really ensure every of the volunteers, they always bring the Castro drops with them, which is, the climate sensors with them. But in terms of location, it's pretty low because of the GPS battery issues when you stay indoor. So it's only 26% of the logs have a location data. It's mostly at the first few days, because when your GPS is actually indoor, the battery would just quickly run out. So this is a paper activity log statistics. But if we look at the smartphone activity logs, so we have 9 volunteers from American Express. So basically they are employers. The number of total an average log is about 54 for each person. So indoor logs is about 75%, outdoor logs about 25%. And you can see in American Express statistics, we have relatively more balance, right? So we have about 45% of the home logs, 26% of the work logs, and about 14% in transit. And by looking at the climate data, we match about 53%, which is because if your casual jobs is, I think if that's 50 meters away from your smartphone, so it's actually out of range of your Bluetooth, you will not be able to get the data. But I think that also makes sense, because if your casual job is really far away from yourself, and we assume you always carry your smartphone, and then that's not really measuring your temperature. So that gives us more reliability in terms of the climate data. And 100% of logs have the location data, because the location data are measured by the smartphones directly from the app. And here's a spatial distribution of a paper activity log. And you can find out the left side is the paper activity logs, and the right side is from the activity log. And you find out, like say, from the paper logs, most of the, I would say, they are kind of low-income populations. They receive the utility assistance from those two charitable organizations, and they basically mostly only move around when seeing a small range. But if you look at the American Express volunteers, because they typically drive to work, so you can see they probably live in many places in Mesa, Chandler, South Phoenix. But they mostly they work in these two sites, but they actually really more spread out in the metropolitan area. So a bit more heat stress index in statistics, just to understand how different group of people really experience heat. And one of the quick findings that you can easily find out, most of the outdoor temperature is higher than indoor temperature, which is makes sense in most of the situation. But in the indoor temperature, you can still find out there's pretty high temperatures for the indoor environments for the low income groups, such as something a lot of like more than 35 Celsius degree for sure, but you can see something even like 55. So that really trigger us to think more deeply for those groups, like say how to really help them. So do they just not really be able to afford the AC fees, or they have really old AC, or they don't even know, they don't even have an AC in their house, and that's why they will not be able to kind of cool their house down. So this really raises significant health issues, and we need to kind of explore more in the near future. But looking at, like say, more of the middle class groups, you can easily find out, okay, so most of the people, the outdoor temperature is higher than indoor temperature, which makes sense. And the home temperature and work temperature is around 25 Celsius degree, which is typical AC temperature. We have a good AC in Phoenix, you have that temperature. But one thing is really worthwhile to mention is that you find out the outdoors, particularly for exercise and transit, you sometimes get pretty high temperature, like say more than 50, and something like more than 40 in exercise, which is kind of dangerous. So those kind of things also raise the awareness for the local residents, like what's the heat environment they really experience, and how to actually avoid the potential heat risk from living in this kind of climate. A bit more comparisons between these two methodologies. So when we design these activity log apps, we say, okay, this will improve the entire accuracy. It will make it much easier, make it much more cost effective by how it actually works comparing to a paper version. And this is one of the comparisons for the location accuracy assessment. And you can find out, even though we have a small number of users, the the home logs are actually quite similar. So, I mean, I would say the smartphone based logs certainly have more home logs for each person. And if you look at the accuracy, certainly we consistently observe a higher accuracy of the home log comparing to the paper-based logs. But if you look more detailedly, like say here, for users who have logs between 10 to 50, so if they really focus on this citizen science project, the paper-based version can also achieve pretty high accuracy. So I would say many of these citizen science projects really heavily rely on how the volunteers devote into the program. For the survey response rate, so if you still remember, by the end of the day, at the end of the program, we asked them to fill in a survey. And for utility assistant volunteer group, or say the low-income groups, they fill in about 43, which is 72% of the survey. And for American Express, we have about 100% response rate. But in terms of overall response rate, we have consistent higher response rate comparing to the low-income populations in this analysis. But certainly there's it's hard to really draw any statistically significant conclusion here. One thing is because the small sample size, and the other is that because those two groups are actually intrinsically different in terms of demography, social demography characteristics. So those will certainly we will certainly need to do a bit more analysis to actually compare across the app and the paper-based with the same group and see how actually it works. So quick discussion and conclusions. So from the analysis, we believe the activity log is an efficient tool to collect the location, time, environment, human activities, and also personal survey data in a very integrated and low-cost method. And from the last two slides, we find out the higher data quality was achieved by activity log, smartphone app, such as the log completeness, location accuracy, and environmental sensing effectiveness. And the last thing I want to say here is the citizen science program really empowers residents with information on personal heat, particularly for low-income residents and vulnerable groups. So our paper is currently under review in the MoHeap Health and Place special issue. And we also put it in the OSF, say, the preprint platforms. If you're interested in what we are doing, and feel free to look at our first draft through this website. Thanks so much. That's all for today. If you have any questions or if you want to discuss the further collaborations, feel free to email me, and you can find out more information I research through my staff website and the personal website. Thank you so much. I will see you later. Bye.